Kingsley, welcome to the Men Made for More podcast. So stoked to have you on here, man. It's been a long time coming. I'm glad we finally got to coordinate it.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you having me on. I know we were supposed to see each other a little bit sooner in person, have a little 40-yard dash race again and stuff like that. But I'm glad to see your face, man, without a mask.
Yeah, no, it's good to see you. I'm glad to have you on here. And I do want to get to your story. That's usually where we start people off. But now that you brought up the 40-yard dash, you have to give a little quick background on that.
Well, all right. So what we had, it was like during our mastermind event in Dallas, right? We had a little bit, we flew in a little bit early, set up some sort of, set up a tour in Cowboy Stadium, right? And it was me, you, and Scott actually, and had a nice, had that opportunity to actually get like the VIP tour package, toured the whole stadium, finally made our way down to the turf. And we're like, let's race it out. And right. And I'm sure there's probably at least a 10-year gap between us in age. And I was like, old man versus young buck over here, who's strong. And, and I mean, I think the rest is history. I mean, good thing we didn't pull a hamstring.
Very fortunate.
But we got some good video footage of that race. And, maybe we'll put that back up again on social media or something.
Yeah, we'll have to get the video footage back up there. It was one of the closest photo finishes races that we've ever had. But to buffer out age difference, I was wearing my Chucks and I had jeans on that I could barely move in. So I think that canceled out the age difference there too.
Oh, absolutely. No, for sure. Cause I'm in my lightweight, shoes with my Lululemon joggers. There's no excuse there, man. I mean, you had me beat for sure.
Yeah, we'll call it even. But now that we got that out of the way, the most important part of the podcast, we can now want you to tell people a little bit about your story, just kind of personally, professionally, where you've been at and where you're at right now.
All right. Thanks. So, so first and foremost, I mean, like from personal standpoint, I'm just husband and father. I got 3 kids, and fully committed to my family and stuff like that. And, they're like my, primary, like that's my life. I mean, I'm kind of like that boring dad at this point in time, but, for me, like that's, my primary purpose in life is to make sure that I'm being supportive to my family, supportive of my kids, and, doing the best that I can during this time to be the best version of myself. Professionally, I'm the owner of Evolve to Perform Physio. It's based on Long Island. So for those of you not in New York, I am east of the city, west of the Hamptons. So I'm just kind of smack dab in the suburbs there. So I'm not upstate. I'm not in the city. I'm just just on the island where we're really close to the beach. I've been doing this solo cash-based practice since 2011, where I started off as a concierge therapist and got sick of driving around. So I was fortunate enough to have the support of the gym that I was a member of to finally get a standalone space, or just a sublease an office in there so that I have a facility and a destination for people to come and work with. So, I mean, like that's really about it, man. Just, just grinding away.
Yeah, no, and I love what you do at your practice. Is very, we have very similar philosophies, which is why we connect so well. But talk a little bit about your involvement with formerly Mobility WOD and the Ready State is now known as the Ready State, and your involvement with them as well.
Well, so yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate enough to be, just be designated as a staff member of the Ready State. They took a chance on some guy they really didn't know. And I'm fortunate for that, because, just from a distance, I've been a follower, admirer for quite a long time. And, I think that just, I think for a lot of us as PTs, can kind of see like the message that they bring across and the philosophies and the things that they value, everything, right? Business wise, professional wise, family, like whole lifestyle thing. I think it's really, something that all of us really embrace and value. And so, for me, like I do, first off, they took a flyer on me to help them create some of their video content that they had for their subscription and their subscribers. So that, I was the first time I put a video out, I was super nervous. I was like, oh my gosh, I am not Kelly Starrett. I was like, this is going to be really interesting to see how the response is. But I think it was like, again, it's just, I think it was a nice exposure, nice experience with getting a little bit uncomfortable with yourself and pushing yourself and challenging yourself, to the point now where it's like I'm contributing a lot of just blog content for them, just on various topics and things like that. So, bottom line, it's been really good just to kind of get some mentorship from them and just be able to work, alongside with them.
Yeah, so cool. And I love that you mentioned that getting outside your comfort zone. And I'm sure, I'm sure all sorts of nervous feelings getting like stepping into something like that. But the benefits that come when you can put yourself in those situations are enormous. And that's, even for us seeking out, help business wise and help with knowing that that's not where our strong suit is, and reaching out for coaching help is very uncomfortable at first, and very, makes you feel almost like you're not qualified, or that you're not in the right league. But those things are where we can really grow at, and it's been fun to see through you.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's, same to you, man. I mean, it's just like, we look back a couple years and we're like, just the conversations that we were having just a handful, small amount of years ago are so different than what we're having now. Right. And I think that's really exciting. And yeah, just continue to look forward to the future.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. I think that, that's cool in any area of our lives. And with your background, we're going to be diving into how that applies to, I guess, a couple areas of our health and our fitness, and being, putting ourselves in position that allow us to be ready for the next step, the next chapter, those things that might come up. Because I think with your unique background, you can speak really well on how people can get ready and stay ready, because you don't know when you're going to be asked to do something for your family, or for a job, or for having to have the physical ability to be able to handle some of those things. And I want you to kind of speak on the difference between waiting for injury to happen, waiting for event to happen. A lot of times people wait for a wedding, or a big event, or in the worst cases, an injury to all of a sudden occur. And then it's like, okay, now I need to start taking care of my health. But you preach the exact opposite thing. You're like, hey, now's the best time to get ready for something. Now's the time where you should be taking care of your body and taking these proactive steps. So can you speak a little bit on kind of how you talk to your patients about that, and how you shift people from this reactive mindset of, okay, this event's coming up, or this injury happened, now I need to do it, to this proactive mindset of, hey, I want to be ready and stay ready for whatever life asks of me?
Oh yeah. I think that's definitely like one of the, the things and challenges that we all face as PTs too, or just like, just anyone in the healthcare space, right? Because, right. It's just that whole, that cliche saying of like, just don't be reactive, be proactive. And I'll be honest with you, I think that whole mindset and mentality is a maturity aspect as well, right? At some point in time, because, for me now, 2020, year of chaos, is when I celebrated a milestone birthday. And, I'm sitting back and looking at some of these last couple of decades, actually decades now, which is crazy. And I'm like, wow, what a transition. Like, even that, that my wife and I have gone through since we had first met, and, raising a family and things like that. So to the point where it's like, well, okay, well, in our 20s, we ate and we slept a certain way. And then by the time we got to our 30s, we shifted things around, and then even as I get it now, I'm in my 40s, or I'm 40. And it's kind of like, you know, I don't know. I just look at myself and I'm like, it's kind of like unrecognizable. But I think at the same time, it's kind of, you have different incentives and reasons why you're doing these things, right? So, so everyone has to find like that reason on why you're going to be proactive to stay ahead of it. So, it could be like that life-changing event, like, oh my gosh, who knows, I might not have been here. So, I had to make that change, or yeah, I couldn't participate in this, or geez, I tore a tendon in my arm. I was like, oh crap, what's next? So I think really it does the biggest thing is just the maturity aspect, and just kind of like, finding like the deeper reasons on like why you have to do that, right? I mean, obviously the simple thing is, do it to feel good for yourself. But there's also a lot of other factors involved. There's a lot of other people who are depending on you, and I think it's just that you have to really dig down and find out what your reason is, and why you do that. Because ultimately, again, it's like we want to be able to live a very healthy and fulfilling life, and not have any of these limitations. You know, and depending on what level of athlete or person you are, like it's that's up to you, right? I'm not gonna tell you what you should be doing, like or what you have to get to be considered like a high level or elite person. That's your perception. So that's kind of like what my approach to it is, like I just evolve to perform, evolve to be you, and whatever that best version of you is that's your best version.
Yeah, that's great. And with I totally connect on finding a deeper why for people too, and finding that motivation. Do you think that's something that happens? Is that a one time, like, decide on your why, or in your case, is that something that continues to evolve as well?
Oh man, it's the only thing I can say is that people learn at their own rate, right? So uh, for me, I've had conversations with my wife, and she's just like, "Well, you haven't done this, you haven't done that." I'm like, "I get it." And unfortunately for myself, I think I have to learn the lessons the hard way, right? It's just like anything else. As any parent will understand this. It's like you're arguing with your children, and you're just like, or you're giving your child advice, and they're like, I'm not going to listen to it. And it's just, and the reason why we do is with good intention, right? We want the best for you. We want you to learn from our mistakes. But in the end, that really depends on how fast you learn things. So yeah, so I've had to take my lumps over the years, um, and for good or for bad. But honestly, I think, like, yeah, I mean, you learn your own rate, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Like I embrace all of these challenges, and I see like, okay, what can I do to, continue to survive and thrive, and continue to do the best that I can right now.
And what, as it relates to your training specifically, either in yourself or in if you have any specific patients that come to mind, of how has your training evolved in the shift from maybe younger on, it was about just like pushing more weight or moving faster or doing those things, to more of this sustainable, like, hey, I need to start thinking about the long term. I need to start thinking about my family. How's your training reflected some of that?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think it's just adding in like a lot more variety to what I've been doing in terms of like the training. Yeah, in my 20s, I was like, let me just like do like the three basic lifts, and I'm good. And it's just, and I can eat myself to to oblivion, and not have to worry about that and stuff like that. But now it's like, I want to just create more movement options and variety in the things that I'm doing. So if it's, I mean, we talk about things like which are really important, being able to play again, right? And having a child, you want to be able to run around the backyard, and cut with the kid and chase them, and not feel like, oh man, like something just gave out from underneath, or I'm winded as hell. It So it's just all of these things that we want to try to adjust to. But I think now with my approach of working with a lot of my patients and my clients is, um, I mean, we start with the baseline foundations, and but at the same time, I want you to feel like you're prepared for every situation that you're going to find. It's almost like going camping and be like, well, have I packed everything in the event that something happens poorly, right? Or, the more I look at it too is, Bill Belichick, right? Is like you know, he's like thought of as like the best football coach out there. And I was watching an interview with him, and he said that basically, like, he's like, I know that I'm prepared for every situation, good or bad, because I have the plan set up. And that's how I want to establish like these programs and regiments and things like that for the people that I work with, to say like, hey, we're going to be able to get you ready for to move into a certain position, be able to handle that, know what you have to do. I think then cumulatively that just makes you more well-rounded and athletic, right? Just that's how I see it.
Yeah, that's really cool, and that's something that I think a lot of people are missing because for the the active adult that's just looking to be healthy, they often don't think about, well, am I ready to cut? Am I ready to bend quickly? Am I ready to lift this thing? And that's not necessarily even in the gym, but usually that's the stuff outside where people end up tearing something or hurting something or getting set back because they've never exposed themselves into that position. And how do you combine? So, how would you recommend combining the foundational type stuff, your hinging, squatting, pressing, pulling, more foundational movements with some of this? Sounds like you're describing like some creativity of some movement flow and ability and play. How do you structure these things into programming personally?
Um, I mean, I try to disguise things. I honestly, like you just try to like integrate it somehow, just like by kind of just actually like showing the person that you're working with, like, hey, look, you may have had concern about this type of movement and things like that, but guess what? This activity that we're doing right now is taking you into that shape, into that position. And how do you feel? And like, oh, wow, holy crap. It's eye opening to them. And they're like, wow, I can do this. Right. And, which is definitely something too, because, we're talking about this as we get older, like, you know, I don't know why we become complacent and we start to think like, well, I'm 30 years old and, this activity can now be erased from my memory in my life. I'm like, well, why is that? And so, I think that we can continue to do a lot of the things that we did when we were younger till the very last day, that we're here on this earth. Right. It was just funny because like, earlier this year, my brother-in-law and I and the kids went to a Ninja Warrior gym, and uh, there was a warped wall there, and there's a sign that said, "Anyone older than 35 should not be doing this warped wall."
Uh,
And my brother-in-law like, "Come on!" I'm like, "You're 35, I'm 39." I'm like, "What's up with that?" I was like, "Let's show them." And it's like, and we did it, but it's like, why? Why is it that we? All right, so I'm not saying like if you're 60 or 70, do a warped wall, but like why is it that there's a cutoff point all of a sudden, and it's like, yeah, just eliminate that from your memory. Just it's merely a memory, and it'll never happen again. So maybe that's just the eternal optimist in me, but why not? Why not be optimistic, or why not have that expectation?
I think it's great. I've heard myself say it. I think it's just like fun to throw around in society almost of people that it's like, oh well, I'm this age, I'm 30 now or I'm 40 now, so like gone with that. But do you think that's truly, is that more of a limiting belief issue mentally or a lack of confidence maybe in the body more so than the actual ability to complete those things?
Well, oh man, that's not an easy answer, right? I mean, it could be. Look, I mean, it's just the years can take a toll on us, right? So it's if we're not, you know, we're not sleeping well, we're not eating well, we're not doing the right things that we have to do. I mean, look, like for myself, I was like, when I had kids, my kids were born. I'm like, does this mean that all of a sudden it's dad bod? And like, am I gonna be walking around with like the white New Balance sneakers and a fanny pack, when we go to Disney, and just kind of like, with the pleated shorts and polo shirt, and kind of just like, settling for and just being happy that I can walk around all day? Or am I going to be the ones who can actually participate with my kids in doing things? And, so I think it depends on what you decide to do, right? So like I said, for my wife and I, from the 20s to 30s, it was like, fad diets, crap food, stuff like that. In our 30s to our 40s, she's like, let's go organic and let's go gluten free and let's try all these things. And here I bought you all your supplements and all your vitamins and your probiotics and all these things. And before I go to bed, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was like, what's next? The prune juice, right? But honestly though, I mean, all of these things coming up, like, she's prepared, right? She's getting us prepared to be really good as we get into later in life. And I was at first like, I was resistant. I'm like, well, gluten free is going to be really hard. And I'm not saying we're 100% gluten free, but most of the time that's something that we look at. But and that's just one specific thing. And but then as you continue on with this, you look at it and you're like, okay, well, yeah, actually this is pretty sustainable, and I feel better. Um, you know, I mean, I don't know. It's just, that's a complicated question, man. But so for sure, fear will sneak in. That's huge, right? And actually, like, since you brought up fear, I want to talk about like an instance that I had, where I had someone come in for an evaluation, and it was like a young man, in his mid 20s, and like, was like working with somebody for like over a year. And at that point in time, like, to me, like, from my evaluation and just assessing him and things like that, like, someone had just scared the life out of this guy, uh, to do the basic remedial things throughout daily living, right? And so for me, at a certain point, I had to go through the evaluation. I stopped it, and I was like, we have to sit down and have a heart to heart talk. And I said to him, I was like, I need you to think about over these next couple of days whether or not you can believe in yourself as much as I believe in you. Because unfortunately, right now, you've been scared, you've been taught to be scared of all these basic things. And you're someone in your mid 20s with so much potential. And, so that was a really hard conversation, right? Because we want to try to help everybody. But at the same time, it's like, but fear is such a powerful thing. And if you have something that's ingrained in your mind, that's a hard thing to let go of before you can really turn the corner and say, you know what, I'm ready. I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to get better. I'm ready to, improve the quality of my life.
And how do you turn fear in in a situation like that into, and it's not completely in your power, but how would you recommend someone taking that fear? Same thing you mentioned earlier with starting with the ready state of this fear that something good's on the other side of it, but for some people that fear is enough to not take that next step. And how do we use fear in a way that's beneficial and productive, but not one that's so so stress driven and so like worry about the future? How do you find that balance?
Oh man. I mean, obviously, it's just trying to create some sort of like support system around you, and having those things, and having like these trusting relationships that that you have, and things like that. But I mean, it's you definitely have to have like the compassion, right? You have to have that patience. And I think fortunately for like what we do, that allows us to express that, to show any person that we're working with, or anyone who has the fear, that we're in their corner regardless. um so, and and we have to slowly just kind of introduce it. I mean, slowly introduce like these, innocuous, like, or these, like, safe movements, and have you just feel like you're safe in your environment, right? So I don't know, I mean, if you're talking about something specific, I mean, we talk about breathing, which is huge, right? And how that can help you clear your headspace, and that's so powerful, and that's so hot right now. I'm not the expert on that. You can talk to other people about that, but that's definitely something that we first will prescribe and have anybody work with, right? Like, you've got to feel safe in your skin, and that's something that's really important. And and then, yeah, you surrounding yourself with the right people who are going to support this, and all these things. So it's not an easy answer. It's not a specific answer, but it's just something that you have to evaluate. And again, this is me as an older version saying all these things. Like, when I was younger, I'd be like, do this exercise, do that exercise, and you're going to be good. And now it's kind of like, well, I have to be a little bit more mental about this, and kind of understand that there's a lot more tied into our physical being, than just the physical stuff.
Yeah, that's such a good point, and that's something that we preach all the time to people, because it's not so straightforward. There's some people, based on things we talk about, like imaging and your X-ray or your MRI, and there's things that it's like you either should be in more pain or you shouldn't be in less pain, and we try and pigeonhole people into this. It's like, this doesn't quite add up, but that's just because we're complicated human beings that go beyond the squat shouldn't be painful based on your mobility and your strength, but it is. So now we need to work around, we need to find some other ways to start to build this back up, because for whatever reason, there's for whatever reason it is painful, and we can't ignore that either. And using some of those strategies like breathing, some other mindset strategies I think are important too, of building that confidence slowly and over time.
Yeah, absolutely, right. It's all like going back again to that, just it's about what we can do, right? Not about what you can't do, what you shouldn't do. It's, what can you do, and it's going to change on a daily basis, right? Um, so so that's it too. It's just it's going to be, can right. It's just going to be what is available to you on that particular day, right? And you'll just be able to take it from there. But we're yeah, it's just like you said, we're so complicated. So one day can be different from the next, but we just have to try our best every single time, right? And then like just consistency with that will, you'll end up reaping the benefits. But it's just yeah, it's just what can you do and not what you can't do.
Yeah, I love that. That's well said. And for people that find themselves stuck in a on that thought process of what we can do versus what we can't or what we shouldn't, for people that find themselves in a situation where maybe it's not as easy to be active, maybe they're sitting at a desk all day, or maybe they're working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, maybe time isn't available, maybe equipment isn't available with all the COVID stuff going on, maybe you don't have access to a gym. What are some strategies or some starting points for people that feel like they can't do, from a like a tactical standpoint of what can they, how can they start to mix this into their daily life, this active ready lifestyle, when they feel like they might not have the ability to do so?
Well, start by walking. Get yourself up, right? I mean, like, just get yourself up. Just make sure you're moving wherever you are. I mean, that's it. Just integrate these things in. Like, depending on who I'm working with too. I'm like, hey, look, I don't know. Every time you pass a chair, just like do like 5 or 10 chair squats, right? And add that up a couple of times, and you're going to accumulate over the course of the day a nice amount of work there. You may not feel it or you may not notice it, and just start somewhere, right? And but walking is the easiest thing nowadays with COVID. Dogs are hot, right? So who doesn't have a dog, and who's not walking their dog, right? Who's not walking their dog a couple of times a day? Like, I think my dog got tired from me walking her so much in the beginning. She's like, twice a day, crazy. But just start with that stuff first, right? And then just let it snowball from there. But just get consistent with something first. Get set like a low goal, if that's what's going to help you, and then see if you can start to chip away at that.
Yeah, it's crazy how much those little things can add up over time, though. Too, if people don't, they're like, what are 10 squats going to do every time I walk by? And then how many does that add up to, though, over a day, a week, a month? If you're consistent with doing that, it's crazy the compounding effect that can have.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what from a mobility standpoint, are there certain things you recommend for those people that are forced to sit a lot? I think getting up, walking, moving, incorporating more movement. Is there, for the, I guess, for the desk jockey, if you will, are there certain things that people can benefit from, preventative things that will address some of the common imbalances you might see in that population?
Well, I mean, just like, yeah, I mean, this is kind of like the Zoom epidemic now, right? Like, just I mean, it's like, obviously the hips are a big thing. We want to just really be we want to be just really vigilant with our hip function and hip health, right? Because that's just going to trigger a lot of other things above and below. I mean, it's also going to be kind of like a fluid situation. So, just like anything else, like if you have, depending on your activities, like leading up to a certain event and things like that, you may develop some of these imbalances, or what you want to call them. I'm doing air quotes right now for those listening, but it's just a matter of just, again, being proactive and staying on top of these things, and like say like, hey, if I haven't visited, how my hips functioning recently, let me just go on, pay attention to that. Like, it's the same thing, like going, same thing, taking care of a lawn. Like, I haven't mowed my lawn in a week. I can get away with it. Haven't mowed my lawn in 2 weeks. That's a problem. Haven't mowed my lawn in 3 weeks, and my neighbor's gonna hate me. So it's just, and it's just like, so it's just, you know, you can't focalize on one thing. It's always going to be a fluid situation on what you're doing, but our body as a whole functions together. So just don't neglect, anything for too long. I mean, I don't know. I think to me, that's a simple approach.
Yeah. And things get neglected for, like you said, weeks is generous. Usually it's months or years of neglecting hips or upper back or ankles or anything like that. And then that's when the
Yeah.
problems come.
Right, absolutely, right? So it's like 3 weeks, your neighbors hate you for not cutting your grass, but a couple of months, and then it becomes a zombie house.
A couple of years, we don't want to see it either.
Exactly.
Yeah. How much of this, and I'm curious to hear your take on this, how much of this is stuff that people should have the ability to do, should have the awareness to do? How much is requires independence versus how much value is there in seeking someone out like yourself or myself in terms of having a coach in your corner, someone to work with? Where's the balance between there? Because we don't want complete dependence on one end, but also if you don't have the awareness, it might be hard to make it independence. Where do you see that fitting in for someone listening?
I mean, that's going to vary on your learning style and your and and quite honestly, like your level of motivation. So, it's just kind of like, I think at that point too, it's kind of, having to run an audit, like a authentic audit on yourself, to say like, okay, well, yeah, I know what to do. I can follow the plan, and you give me something, I know I'm going to take care of it, right? It's like I'm going to check that list. Then you have the other person who's like, I really do need you to help motivate me. So, I mean, it all depends, right? So, I mean, for me, like personally, like I have some clients or patients that I see once a week, because they're like, if you didn't come, or I didn't see you, or I didn't get on the call with you, I wouldn't do it. And it's like, okay, well, I mean, I'm here to support you in any way. And then you have those other people who are like, I'll see you in 4 weeks. I'm like, good. But make sure, let's touch base again, and have good communication during that time, right? So I mean, it really depends. But I mean, I tell anyone who calls me too, I'm like, gone are the days of 2 to 3 times a week for 6 weeks. Like that stuff's done. You're not going to get any better. It's like, for me, it's like going to school and going to college, and like I paid my tuition. Did I pass? I'm like, no, because you didn't study, you didn't do any work, right? And you didn't pass any tests. So for me, like, so if anyone listening there, if you want to work with me, you gotta take your tests, you gotta do your work, you have to study, and I'll be there to kind of guide you along, and plug and play what we need to add in and what we need to change and things like that.
Yeah, it's not a good use of your own time. It's not a good use of our time, your time, finances, resources. If you're just going to come and expect a quick fix that's going to just be taken care of by simply taking the first step. I think the first step is very important. If you also have those other things we talked about, like your deeper why, your motivation, some of those things, then that's a really powerful combo. But if you're just looking for it to be a magic bullet or a quick fix, that's it's going to set you up for a letdown or not the results that you're hoping for.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. Yeah, there's no such thing as a magic pill. That's for sure.
Yeah, and that's prevalent, and unfortunately, in the healthcare industry, we look for people are looking for that surgery, that pill, that injection, the thing that will create a quick result. But when these things have been going on for weeks, months, years, like we said, there's nothing that's going to truly address the underlying cause of that.
Yeah, so I mean, I totally agree.
How do you get people to buy into the long game of that, though, when someone's had something that's been going on for years? How do you get someone up front to come in and be able to commit to that? Is that something you are helping to steer them to get mentally ready for that or connect to that deeper why, or are they already coming in ready to do that? Because I think if there's a disconnect there, if someone comes in and if they're not fully bought into what, hey, you say you want to get here, but this is what it's going to take, A through Z, this is what you're going to have to do. If there's any disconnect there, it's not going to work. So how do you kind of coach people through that process?
Well, I mean, as I mean, I've just learned over the course of years, being married now for like 15 years, that communication is the most important skill to have, and I'm still learning that. And So just being able to lay out the expectations from the very beginning, I think is the most important thing, because you don't want to create any sort of letdown. Either I get let down or they get let down, and or you don't want to mislead them as well, right? So it's just so it and but again, it's going to be whoever is going to be the right fit. I mean, 100% of the people who walk in the door aren't going to be aren't going to be there, right? I mean, that's just like, that's evident, right? And so I think, again, it's that communication and being able to just filter out the right people too is something that I think that you and I as a skill are starting to develop a little bit more. And it's not to say that we don't want to work with everybody, and we're not going to like turn anyone away, but if we're going to invest a lot of our time, brain power, and just our commitment to you, then it has to be reciprocated in some sort of fashion, right? And so I mean, I don't know, I mean, it's not an exact thing, but it's just like it's not going to be, unfortunately, it's not going to be 100% the right fit for everybody, but we can only do our best and continue to be the advocate, and just give them our undying attention and energy.
Totally. I think that's an important point you bring up, whether you're on the practitioner side, like we are, of looking to see who's a good fit, or especially though for all the people listening, if you're trying to find a coach or a therapist, wherever that place is, you need help. You want to make sure that it's someone, there's so many options out there, and you want to make sure that you find truly the right fit, because this is a big investment in your time and energy and resources in these things, that if you're really if it's really important to you to live to that level you say you want to live at, and you say, hey, I want to be this way when I'm 90, and I want to be feeling this way and moving this way and there for my family. Like, if you really want to do that, that takes an all-in commitment. And that's why it's so important to make sure that you're aligning with who's going to help you get there. And you might have to try a couple people out to find that. That's not a one time thing. And I think we see that quite a bit.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And then that's it. We have to be able to create this umbrella and referral network of people too, that we can, kind of match up. So it's almost like we're matchmakers in some way, right?
Mm-hmm.
But again, like that you asked me, when I was younger, when I first started, I'd be like, I can take care of everything, and be like, what a mistake. It's like, let me send you the right person now.
Right. Yeah, I think of course, we think that early on. We're like, oh, anyone coming in, because we want to be able to help anyone. It's not like you said earlier. I love how you said it's not that we don't want to help anyone, but if there's other people that can do it better, then we owe it to them to be able to send them to someone who's going to be able to better help them, to also allow more availability on our schedule to see the people that we really can really commit to and really help. And that takes, like you said earlier, maturity. That takes some of those things to be able to decipher when that is. That's cool, man. Any other things on the physical side of things before we transition into the last part of our show here? Any other words of wisdom from a training standpoint, or a programming standpoint, a movement standpoint, that you want to talk on before we transition over?
No, I mean, I think the only thing I would say is just, don't be afraid to try new things. That's all. Just constantly, I'm going to outdate myself, I guess, by saying it, but just like expand your Rolodex, right, on movement, because it's just like, there's so many things that we can do. There's so many activities that we can partake in that are going to demand, different movements and different things that we should be able to do, that we were born to do. And so just don't be afraid to try something new.
I love that too. Yeah. And we'll circle back on this at the very end, but on Kingsley's Instagram too, he's got some great stuff of some less conventional things though, that totally piece together but they apply whether if you're just looking to improve your snatch lift, if you're in CrossFit, they help that, but they also help you if you're trying to just in general feel good and look good too. So it's a cool combination of those things, but you have to be willing to try those things. And I know you've experimented with some of those things too. I'm sure they're not all first try great experiments.
Oh yeah, I mean, I could create a post on all the outtakes and wouldn't be pretty, right?
Yeah, so true. Yeah, I've been there too. Well, that's great, man. Yeah, no, I love you sharing the movement side of things, and want to transition to the other part of our show too. When I first approached you, I wanted to be, more than just the physical, the health side of things. I think that's super important, and you and I are both very passionate on that side of things. But also speaking on just the difficulties we face as men in general, and as businessmen, as husbands, fathers. Uh, it can be hard in this world to try and make sense of all that, and especially with Instagram, we see other people doing certain things or living my air quotes of a perfect life, of all those snapshots of everything looking great, and that can be misleading for people listening and following along, thinking that we have it all together when we both certainly don't, and we never would claim that we have. But that can be misleading and harmful for other guys listening. So if you I'd love if you're willing to be, open and honest with any listeners of any struggle or challenge that you've either faced in the past or that you're currently facing that's ended up being actually a big catalyst for your growth as a man.
Oh yeah, wow. Well, I mean, I think like, just being like a business owner itself, like, I mean, obviously we're dealing with this unprecedented pandemic and all these other things, and still being able to, support your family and have a business and feel safe that you're going to have a business still. Um, you know, the struggle for me is that, it's just not having, I guess, not allotting the proper amount of time and balance between family and the stuff that that I'm passionate about too. And I'm passionate about my family, but I'm also very passionate about what I do, to help anyone that I come across. And so like that's definitely the struggle, and that leads to some bickering between me and my spouse and my wife, right? I mean, I'll be real for sure. I mean, Instagram, like, between posting pictures of donuts, dogs, and some random exercises, yeah, there's a lot of different things sprinkled in between, right? And that's just life. And so, I mean, that's definitely something, is just being like being like a male now, a man, just like being, just trying to support that. But then also at the same time, being able to support my spouse at home with other things. Because, I think, like, we look at, I personally will look at the male of the current time is, we're much more helpful around the house, or we better be. All right. So we're much more helpful around the house. Okay. We've expanded the things that we contribute, right? Because look, a lot of the times we have both parents working in a household, and everyone's got to pull their weight and do things equally. Then at the same time, I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, well, then I have a son that I'm trying to raise to be a polite and respectful young man, right? We've got all these other things, like now the Me Too movement and all these things. And I mean, I can't believe I even just brought that up, because it's like, oh man, he's going to talk about Me Too. But honestly, to me, it scares the hell out of me to raise a young man during this time, to be able to make the proper decisions, to be respectful to women, right? To be a productive citizen. And I think, like, so how do you approach that? And for me, like right now, I think that I've always felt like throughout my life that I lead by example. And so I have to reflect on some times where I may not have been that good example, and then try to be a better example as I continue to grow. And, again, I tell my wife, I'm a slow learner sometimes, right? But, I do the laundry, I cook dinner, we do a bunch of things, we pitch in as much as we can. And it's just, so I mean, those are some of the things. Am I whining? Am I complaining? Maybe. I don't know. But these are just some of the things that pop up in my head. So, there's a lot of things that come into play here: business, family, raising a young man, right, to be respectful and productive. And I'm not discounting my daughters at all, too, right? I want them to be strong, independent women when they grow up. I want to be able to kick some guy's butt if he doesn't treat them well. That's for sure, right? So there's just a lot of things, but just being a father of 3 kids now, and being a father now for 14 years, it's these are some of the things that I've learned. And then continue to try to be a good husband for 15 years. Like, there's a lot of things.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing all that. And there's a lot of good stuff to take away from that. It's because you're not balancing between, a good thing and a bad thing. It's like between very good thing one, very good thing two, very good thing three. Like it's easy when we know there's something that we're doing and it's like, okay, I don't need to be doing that. I can get rid of that way of living. But when it's all these really good things that you're passionate about and that carry a lot of meaning in your life, that it makes it hard. There's going to be we can't put equal energy into all those things and expect to just everything to just work out and fall into place perfectly.
It's just try your best, right? Without obviously letting it take a toll on your health as well, and your health as well, right? And that's another thing too, because it's like having that mindset of like, well, if I take care of myself, is that selfish? And it's not selfish, right? And I have to tell that to actually a lot of moms who feel that way. It's not selfish. Don't be the martyr. Take care of yourself as well, and don't feel guilty about it. And and everyone else will support you as well. So you've got to take care of yourself. So yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of things.
Yeah, that's so true. I love that you brought that up about being it's not selfish. It's actually selfless to be able to make sure that you can show up. And that's, the whole topic we had on here of being ready to perform, and whether that's performing in, that's usually not the gym. When we're saying being ready to perform, that's, can you be there for your kids, for your spouse? Can you be there at work? Those are the things that you need to show up and be ready to perform for. And that doesn't require you to be a world-class athlete or anything like that, but it does require you to have a basic knowledge of how you're moving, how you're feeling, your energy, your mood. Those things are all impacted by being ready to perform in the sense that we're speaking on it.
100%.
Yeah. So that's great, man. Let me, I'm going to recap my three. I had a bunch of takeaways from here. I was writing down as we were talking, but I'm going to recap mine, and you can add any of yours in after. But some of the key things that I jotted down was that in order to be ready and sustain long-term health, you do have to connect it to your deeper reason, your deeper meaning, your deeper why. If you're just doing it because you feel like you have to, or because you should, then it's probably not going to be something that's sustainable. Second piece I liked was when you talk about preparing for every situation, being able to be prepared for the best, but more importantly, be prepared for the worst. Are you getting into that movement Rolodex? Are you exposing yourself to different things so that you can be able to handle any activity that you go on with your kids, or that any activities you're doing, that your body doesn't give way when that situation does come? And then last piece is not to self-limit your abilities, like the sign at the park you were at too, of not saying just because I'm this age I can't do this. How do you want to be living when you're 90, and making sure that your actions align with that? Because if you have that self-limiting belief before you even get into the training or anything, you're going to limit what you can actually accomplish. So those were three of many things that I jotted down. Is there anything else you want to add to those, Kingsley?
No, man, I think you covered a lot, no, I think you said it really well.
Sweet. So we do got one more question for you. You're still on the hook. Our hypothetical scenario that asking all of our guests here. So let's say you're leaving your favorite coffee shop, or you're leaving Starbucks. You're getting your blue, your Jamaican blue, whatever I got exposed to this coffee with Kingsley, the $30 Starbucks coffee.
Oh man, yeah, the Jamaican Blue Mountain, made on a Clover machine.
Clover machine. So that's the secret. Kingsley's just getting that special order, and he bumps into his younger self of 10 years back. And Kingsley, younger you asks current you for some life advice. You're on your way to a super important thing with your family. Can't be late for it. You only have 60 seconds to talk with him. What life advice are you giving to him, and what are you saying to him?
I would say to him, trust your gut instinct, because you don't know it now, but your gut instinct is on the right track, and you just need to have that confidence to do what you have in conviction and what you feel, because you're on the right track. You're not off base by very far. You just need to refine it, but trust yourself and go get it. Don't waste the time. Okay. So that is something that, yeah, over the 10 years. And then the last thing I would say to him is, dude, you don't even know what you're missing without having butter in that coffee.
I had to get slipped in there somewhere. That's the important key second point. I got goosebumps on the first part for sure, but the second piece is that's just some good truth right there.
Oh, absolutely, man.
Thanks so much, Kingsley. That's awesome, man. Let's wrap up here. Where can people find you? Reach out to you? Where's a good place to connect with you?
So I try to be active on Instagram. The Instagram is Dr. Kingsley PT. So it's Dr. Kingsley PT, or also at the business account, which is at Evolve to Perform. And then just the website, www.evolvetoperform.com. So that's spelled out. So there's no two in between. So it's just evolvetoperform.com. And then if anybody has a question, I love to, interact with anybody with a question, concern. I want to just keep the brain sharp. So you can either email me at kingsley@evolvetoperform.com, or you can just DM me on Instagram. And just to answer anybody else's question, Kingsley is my first name.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll link all those up in the show description too. So people, if you want easy access to reach out to him, highly recommend it. At least go give him a follow. And really had a great time today, Kingsley. Thanks for sharing some knowledge and some fun along the way. And really just appreciate you taking some time to get on here today.
Dave, thanks, man. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate seeing your face.
Yeah, right back at you, man.